Just a lot of spirits about tonight, so yeah, so yeah, a little bit nervous just about that, so but excited too that I feel that it's going to be really beneficial, so
particularly for spirits who are having difficulties.
Yeah, well, this particular guy's been around he first found out about you about, I think he said 26 days ago he first found out about you.
Right. Is that because of someone who found out about me in Africa? Or?
No, what happened was he started cry. He had a cry in the spirit world about all the children coming across.
Yeah.
And then a spirit came to him in the spirit world and said that he could come and talk to you. And that's how it all came about. So he's very confused about God. They've got a lot, and that's something I'm just a bit nervous about tonight, because I sort of feel some of them will want to sort of butt in, if you know what I mean. So my feelings is if I can sort of just keep connected to Kimbu, because he feels like the person who has the desire to actually listen. So I think we just see how it goes. But he certainly ever since he found out about you, there's all these questions, and and they can't really work out, I guess, what's going on in the spirit world either, or where they are, because it's like they've never left their home in a sort of funny sort of way. It's like Somalia has just moved to the spirit world, and
there's so many of them.
Yeah, so he's been there about 90 years, from what he's told us, and he was born through rape, and then his son was actually a raper, so that's really disturbing for him. And then as far as in his life, like he was, I'm not sure if you'll have to ask him, but he's been part of the military, so he certainly killed people, I feel, and he was actually shot in the right eye, I think is actually how he died. And I think that was by the Italians, is my understanding. So he was in southern Somalia, from what I understand anyway. So for all of them in the spirit world, if it wasn't their own people killing them, basically it's been the British and the Italians. So
any marauders, basically.
So okay, well.
What if I just blow my nose first? I'll just do that, and when we get started, just
yeah, that'd be cool.
And I'm going to try and record over my phone link recording thing and see how it works. But
awesome.
I don't know if it's going to work that well, but we'll just give it a go.
The other thing is, my feeling is that they're all Muslim.
Right, yeah.
And he calls you the God one. So because he feels that you know a bit about God. And he personally believes, well, Allah has just let them down. So so that they really don't get the whole religious stuff. So that's really what he wanted to discuss first, is questions about God.
No, that's no worries.
Okay.
Fire away.
Hello, God one. This is Kimbu.
Hello, Kimbu.
Thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure.
There is a lot of us here tonight. And as Peter said, where we are is just like where we were when we were on Earth.
When you say it's just like where you were on Earth, could you describe it a little for me?
Well, where we are here, it's flat, desolate. There's rape continues.
Yeah.
Murder, mayhem, disorder everywhere.
But no one actually dies when they're murdered.
No one dies. It's like we just can't get away from it.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing is that our women actually now want to be raped.
Yeah.
Because if they're not being raped, they feel that they're not being loved.
Yeah.
So, and then us as the men, like, that's just unbearable.
Yeah.
My wife was raped on Earth.
Yeah.
And our children, I was born through rape.
Yeah.
My father never knew that he wasn't my father. It was only 2 days before my mother died that I knew this.
Yes. Yeah. Your mum told you?
My mum told me. I was always different to the other boys.
Yeah.
And I never knew why.
Yeah.
And when I went to the spirit world, it's like everyone's all there waiting for us.
Yeah.
And now that's
all
what...
the evil people who perpetrated the violence against you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's what we do too.
Yeah.
It's like that's what fills in our time, so to speak.
Yeah.
Waiting for the next lot to come.
Yeah.
And the last few weeks, or you call them weeks, where you are, with all the children now coming over.
Lots of children dying from malnutrition.
The starvation.
Yeah.
And we don't understand how come we're all together.
Right.
Because we were all very different where we were.
Yeah.
With different tribes. But we all believe in Islam.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in Islam anymore.
Right. And is that the case for most?
Most of us don't believe anything exists.
Yeah.
And then the bright light said that there was a God.
Yeah. And the bright light, you can see that that's a man?
No, I couldn't see whether it was male or female.
Right. Well, shall we ask them to come again and they just tone down their brightness so that you could see the difference?
Yes. He's a man.
Yeah.
He's quite similar to myself.
Yeah.
So, where does he live?
Well, he lives in a place that's called the Celestial Kingdom, and that's one of the things I'd like to describe to you about how you can get there too.
So,
can I ask you another question though, just before we begin?
Yes.
And when you say your women like being raped, what do you mean?
As a woman, if there was 10 of you in a room and only 3 of you were raped, then the other 7 aren't beautiful.
Okay. So the women sort of want the rape as a proof of their beauty?
Yes. So, as a man, they feel that it's like if were a good person, which none of us are, but if you were,
yeah,
a woman wouldn't like you.
Right. Yeah.
And then...
And why, have you asked the women why that's the case?
Because we wouldn't look after them.
So it's all about protection and security?
Yes.
In other words, they're aligning themselves with the most evil men so that they're protected by those men?
Correct.
Against other people?
Yes.
So it's really about fear?
Isn't everything about fear?
Yes, well, certainly everything where you are is about fear.
the other thing is the women now, it's like they don't talk.
Right.
It's not that they keep to themselves, but it's more like they're a shell.
They've become so detuned from their emotions that you don't really, and not really able to interact with them.
They're not like women, no.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. And with all the children passing over at the moment, what are your feelings about that?
I started by getting rageful. It's like this has been going on so long.
Yeah.
Like so long. Like how can it just continue and continue? And you call your world a civilized world, and yet this is what happens.
I don't know if I call the world a civilized world, but certainly there are others that call it a civilized world.
Yeah. It's like they have to come to us, and it's not nice here.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone wants to know why. Why is this the way it is?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
The pain. I think for myself it's the pain.
Yeah.
And this time it was the pain. The pain, it's like we just wait and they come in, and there's not even a body as such when they come over.
Sort of like you can feel that it's somebody that you knew, but you can't really recognise them.
No, you can't recognise them. And then I've heard you talk that children should go to a nice place.
Yeah.
But are we the ones that are bringing them to our place?
Yeah, that's correct.
Because we want to talk about that too.
No worries, yeah.
Can we start with God?
Certainly we can. You start with the questions you want to ask, and then I'll try to answer them as best I'm able. How's that?
Is Allah a son of God?
You mean Muhammad or Allah? Because your belief is Allah is God, isn't it?
Yes, we are confused. Is he a son of God or is he God?
Well, Muhammad is a son of God, just like...
Muhammad?
Yeah, Muhammad. Just like I'm a son of God, and just like you're a son of God.
Yeah.
So we're all children of God.
And Allah?
Allah, or is your term for God, right?
Yeah.
And God really doesn't have a name like that, because but certainly God does exist, and you can actually have a personal relationship with God.
So Allah and God are not the same?
Well, you could say God or Allah is the same thing, yeah, but it's not the God that the Muslim believes him to be, just like the God the Christians believe in is also not the God that the Christians believe him to be, because both the Muslims and the Christians have a tendency to believe that God is a punishing God, and that's not the case at all.
So our God is not under your God?
Well, there's one God in the universe, and that God is not the God that the holy books describe. So the holy books describe a God who punishes and harms people.
Because that's why we're all told we are where we are.
I know that's why you're told that you are where you are, but the reality is that is the construction of other men who wish to control you. I'm
already confused.
Well, you see, perhaps the best way I can describe it is this. There is a God who exists that is a loving and compassionate person, if you like, or loving and compassionate being. But the God that the Christians believe in is a God that's punishing and not compassionate, and the God that the Muslims believe in is a God that's that's punishing and not compassionate. And I have never met any God like that. So the reality is, I feel that a God like they describe does not exist.
So we cannot kill with your God.
That's correct, and nobody can kill the true God, if you like. But there are many false gods, and I would term false gods the gods that men have created for the sake of themselves. So in other words, a lot of people on the planet have created gods for themselves to worship because they want a justification of their evil deeds.
So what happens though when a man rapes my wife?
Yep.
And I don't kill him?
Well, if a man rapes your wife, firstly, there's an impact upon his own soul. In other words, he becomes quite dark in his soul. There's a law in the universe that any time you act in a way that's not loving towards another person, there's an automatic degradation in your own soul. And
is that like why we're told that our children starve now?
No, you're told a lot of lies about that. The reality is that the main reason why your children starve now is because of people on Earth not wanting to become more loving. And so the people on Earth are using God as a justification for bad things happening to your children, when the reality is that bad things are happening to your children because of people on Earth who are evil and not doing anything about it.
So all of us have killed most of the men.
Mm-hmm.
So your God will never have anything to do with us then?
No, that's not true. Remember I said that God was a compassionate God, and God also forgives, but there's certain, I suppose you could say, there are laws regarding forgiveness. And one of the laws, so God has already forgiven you, but until you go through a process of what is called repentance, or feeling sorry for what you've done, then God's love cannot flow to you. So in a way, you're blocking your own progression out of the location that you're currently in. And I can certainly describe to you how to get out of the location you're currently in by doing something different.
So we can all get out of this location even when we've done what we've all done?
Yes, yeah. God doesn't preclude any person, no matter what they've done, from actually progressing out of the location they're in.
So our bodies change too?
You know how bright the body was of the person who was standing in front of you? You know how you call him the light?
The bright one, yes.
Yeah, the bright one. And then when he toned down his brightness, you could see that he was a man.
But that's not because he didn't do anything wrong.
That's correct. If you ask him whether he did something wrong when he was on Earth.
He said he was a soldier too.
Exactly.
And we can be like that.
Yes, you can change just like he has changed. But he had to go through some things to change.
Can we do it as a group, or do you have to do it by yourself?
Well, the reality is you can do it as a group, but it is an individual process in the sense that it's something that has to come from within each individual. So you can't force another person to go through the process. Only the person by themselves can go through a process. Now, you can all do it together, but it has to come from within each person's heart.
And then we get like a new country.
You get like a new country, but also you get a new body, a brighter body, and one that's less pain. And for the men and the women, depending on who decides to do this in their heart, the women will stop being raped, and the men will stop trying to murder, and so forth.
But do we have to like the British and the Italians?
Eventually you will, yes. You'll have to go through the process of actually forgiving them as well for what they've done.
Even now where we are, and not on Earth anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
Because most of us don't even know that, realise that.
Yeah.
Especially the younger ones.
Yeah. That passed over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just really the same.
Yeah. Can we maybe deal with the younger ones first? Can we do that? How many young children are with you?
All up?
Yeah.
You really want to know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I've been told there's nearly 5 million of them.
Yeah. And do they look very happy being where they are?
Well, nobody's happy here.
No, I know that.
No one was probably even very happy when we were alive, so
I agree.
happiness is very foreign.
Yep, I understand that. But I'm asking you specifically about the children.
No.
Yeah. Well, are you prepared to just see them leave you and go with another group of people that can help them be happy?
The men are, but the women are not. Can you talk to the women about what you want to do?
Well, what I would like to see, if I can explain to the women what I would like to see, is that their children are no longer in pain. That's what I would like to see.
Would that mean that the women have more pain?
I don't think so. The women might feel a sense of loss, but the children can come and visit them again.
They can come back.
Yeah, they can come and visit the women. But my suggestion is we also want to help the women to get out of where they are too and into the same location of where their children can go right now. Does that make sense? The truth is that all of you can go to where the children are going to go.
So, when you say children, what is it? All of them, or is it 5-year-olds and younger, or
Well, no,
all of them?
There'll be ones who just need some help from some friends who will be able to help them release their pain about their life on Earth, and these ones can help them better than their own mums and dads can. Does that make sense? And so what I'd like to do is enlist the help of those spirits who can help your children become happy as soon as possible.
Okay.
And I just feel too that it will help you all to have less fear as well, because I know a lot of the women are allowing themselves to be raped so that their children are protected.
Yes.
But the reality is it's not actually protecting the children.
So what do we do?
Well, the first thing is to allow the children to have a life of their own, where they can decide where they want to be. Many of you are not prepared for that to occur, but the reality is that every person in the universe really is allowed to have a life of their own.
But if we can't make them safe here, how are they going to be safe when they leave us?
Would you like to meet the people who I would like to help?
Yes.
The children? Well, what I'll do is I'll meet a few of them, because there are actually quite a few, there's actually quite a few million people who want to help the children.
So the younger ones, do they go first, or do they all go together?
The younger ones will find it the easiest to go first. Yep, so the little babies and little children under a few years of age, they'll find it easiest to go first. Then the ones that are a bit older, who have had a little bit more what's called soul damage because of the events on Earth, and those ones will take a little bit longer.
So they're the ones who are killed?
Yeah, like the ones who have become child soldiers and things like that, then they will need special help.
But they'll be okay?
They'll be okay, yeah.
A lot of the older men are not happy.
Why is that?
They still don't believe, but they do have their eyes shut too, so...
Well, perhaps the first thing to do is if they can open their eyes and look at the man who's standing in front of him, the bright one.
They want to know how come he's not God.
Well, he's just a man like you are, but he's a man who's learnt how to love.
So that's love.
That's what love does to the soul, yeah. Love changes the person from a person who wants to murder and rape and hurt other people to a person that has a really lovely feeling coming from them of love.
they also want to know whether he came from Earth originally. Cause
yes. Would you like him to give you a picture of what he did while he was on Earth?
Yes.
Let's do that.
Everyone's quite confused. It's like he's one of us.
That's right. But he's obviously learned how to love now, you see. So what I'm suggesting to you is every one of you, if you learn how to love, you can become the same as he is.
So all the children can go with the likes of him.
Yes, and they can learn how to love very rapidly because they haven't done as many things bad to other people.
It's got quieter already.
Yeah.
The children sing karma already.
Yeah. Now, can I show you all the people who would like to help the children?
Yes.
Let's do that too.
There is a lot.
Yeah.
There's more than the children.
That's right, because every one of the children is going to need some personal help.
They're not even asking for us to say it's okay to go.
The
children.
The children, no. No. Do the children want to go?
Yes.
Yeah. And the reality is if you can let them go, then they have a good prospect of becoming happy very quickly. Whereas if you hold on to them and keep them where you are, then it'll take longer for them to become happy.
Can you answer some of the women say that if they let the children go,
Yep.
then that must mean that they no longer love the children?
No, that's not true. In fact, I feel it would be an act of love to the child if you let the child go. And the reality is that you'll be able to meet up with your children again if you learn how to progress in the same manner that these people are going to teach your children how to progress.
Some of the women are fearful if the children go,
Yep.
what happens to them?
You mean what happens to the women or the children?
The women.
There'll be nothing different happening to the women unless we talk to the women about their feelings. And I'd love to do that as well to help the women.
Yeah.
So what I would love to see is that all of you are able to move to a new location.
Do you mind talking to a woman to talk about that?
Yep, I've got no problems talking to her.
Okay, well when it's time we do that?
Yep, certainly. We can do that now if you want it, then you can come back to talk if you want.
If that's what you think is best, yes.
I think it's best to deal with the issue as soon as we can, yeah.
It's Kayla?
Kayla? It's good to meet you, Kayla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all the babies okay?
All the babies will be okay, yeah.
The little ones too?
The little ones too. They just need help to become happy. When they're living there where you are currently, they're not happy.
So why do we feel safe when they're here?
It's like many of the choices and decisions that you've made have been for their sake, right?
Yes.
And now you still feel you're making choices and decisions for their sake. So having them with you is like a justification for what you choose to do.
So when I let my baby go, why do I feel as if a piece of me is gone?
That's because you have an investment in your child that's unhealthy. When I say it's unhealthy, it sort of feels like the child is a part of you.
Yes, that's what we're all like.
Yeah, but the truth is that the child is actually God's child, and you just created the body for the child live in.
This God you talk about, how can a man be God when men do all these things to us?
Well, God's not a man, but God has masculine traits, and God is not a woman, but God also has feminine traits. So you could call God your mother or your father.
Can you say that again to all of us?
Well, God has feminine traits as well as masculine traits.
So there's a woman part of God?
Yes, there's a woman part of God and there's a man part of God. And God, the man part of God is nothing like the men that you know, and a woman part of God is nothing like the women that you know.
So why don't the woman part of God look after us?
Well, because on the earth at present it's very, very difficult for her to do that with the different feelings that different people have towards God and also towards each other. Right? At the moment, there's not very much feminine presence of God on the earth because of the different problems, and also there's not much feminine presence of God in the spirit world, except when you begin to connect to her.
So when I cry about my baby?
Sorry, will that God...
When I cry about my baby,
yeah?
What's going to happen to me?
You'll actually become happier if you cry about your baby. That's one of the things I want to talk to you about.
But does my baby not love me anymore?
No, the baby, love always exists. In fact, love is the thing that is permanent in the universe. So any love that you have for your child will always exist. But any addiction you have for your child, any sort of desire to meet something within you. So in other words, if you say that you love your child, but if you want your child for something that you want for yourself, then that's not really loving your child.
But why did so many of our children do so many bad things?
You mean become child soldiers and things like that?
Yes.
Well, a lot of times it happened because of bad men on the earth forcing them to become those kind of persons. See? So the reality is that a lot of it happened not because the children wanted it to happen, but rather because other adults wanted it to happen.
So was that because of us as our mothers?
No. It's unfortunately it's because of the way that mankind on earth has walked away from God. So in other words, men became nasty men instead of being loving men, and as a result of that, they made very nasty decisions, and then their nasty decisions harmed you and harmed your children, and so forth.
So these bright ones say that our children will be in a better place.
Yeah.
How do we get to that place to see them?
Well, the reality is at the moment you won't be able to get to that place to see them for a little while unless you deal with some of your own feelings. So your children can go to that place pretty much straight away, but it's going to take just a little bit of extra time for you to be able to go to that place. Does that make sense?
You're not telling us we can't hate men anymore, are you?
Well, that's one of the things you'll have to work through, and we can talk about that. The reality is there's quite a number of things that have to be worked through, and that's the things preventing you from going to the same place that the children can go to.
Because we control men?
Well, no. If you want to be as loving as the person who's standing in front of you, or as those people who want to help your children, then no, you're not going to be able to control men. And you're not going to be able to let yourself be raped anymore, and you're not going to be able to do a lot of things like that. But we can talk about that.
Okay.
That makes sense?
The women are listening.
Yep. So what I suggest firstly is that if we can allow the children are allowed to come and go as well. So they'll be able to come back and visit you if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
But it will be if they want to, not when you want them to.
Not when we want to.
So if you want to go to where your children are, that's going to require that you work through some things so that you can become as loving as your children are. And when you have the same amount of love in you as your children have, then you'll be able to go to the same place that your children will go to.
So When you say the same amount of love, when we love our children as much as they love us.
Yeah, and as much as they love themselves as well. Yeah.
Just for them.
Yeah, so what we want to do is teach your children how to love others and also how to love themselves. And because they're children, it's much easier to teach them than it is to teach an adult person.
So the boys won't hate girls anymore?
That's right.
No more of that?
No. The boys won't hate the girls won't be scared of the boys. Yeah.
So why did your God put us all in the same place?
Well, the reality is that God didn't put you all in the same place. The reality is that there was just processes involved that caused your incarnation. And unfortunately, what happens on Earth is that because there is so much badness on Earth that is man's choice, then bad things happen to whole groups of people. And unfortunately, Somalia has been a location on Earth that's been in a lot of turmoil over hundreds of years. And unfortunately, by chance you were born into those locations.
Yes.
And unfortunately, a lot of the other nations who should know better actually harmed you.
So is that why we call all these babies to us? Because we gave up on our own babies?
Yes, I feel so. Like the reality is your own babies have already progressed, many of them. And many of them are already quite bright spirits in the spirit world. And they'll be able to meet you through this process if you allow them to do so. So you'll be able to see your own babies again as well.
As well as all the other babies we look after.
That's correct, yeah.
So if we do that, where do all these babies that pass, like as we speak, go?
Well, if they aren't drawn to you, because at the moment they are drawn to you because of your desire for them to be close to you. But if they aren't drawn to you, then what will happen is there'll be some bright spirits who are like the bright one that's standing in front of you.
Mm.
And those spirits will be able to love and help the children to be happy. And then the children can learn a lot of things that they couldn't learn if they stay with you.
One of the ladies wants to know, she's been here 255 years.
Yeah.
Before today, she's never seen one of these bright ones before.
Yeah.
How is that so?
Well, a lot of the times the bright ones have been around you, but you have not been able to see them because you don't want to see them. A lot of you feel very ashamed of yourselves, yes?
That's
very
probably not the word.
Look, and you don't look pretty anymore.
We can't look at ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you haven't wanted anybody else to look at you either.
And that's why we don't see them?
And that's why you don't see them. Because when you see them, if you saw them, you'd feel ashamed of yourself even more, you see. My suggestion is to let yourself feel that shame and still see them because they can help you a lot.
So, she wants to know, does the shame come from her father raping her?
Yes, and from other events too. This comes from mum and dad. Your mother has had problems too, hasn't she? She's been raped too and harmed, and so she already had a lot of shame before she was with your dad.
So it's the shame of our mothers that allows our fathers to do these things to us?
Not just the shame, the fathers also have a lot of problems too. They are very violent and angry towards women, and as a result of that, they feel that they can use women whenever they want, and that's wrong too. That's also evil too. So it's not just the openness of your mothers towards shame, but it's also the feeling of your fathers that they can violently harm women sexually. And those feelings are very, very bad feelings too.
So all these bright women around us, are they here to show us something or take us somewhere?
Yeah, they can show you how to work your way through these different things that you need to work your way through. They can show you how to love again, and they can show you...
We all want to know, do we have to stay here to do it, or can we move somewhere else to do it?
Well, no, you'll be able to move to a new location to do it as long as you're willing to give up some of the addictions you have.
What's an addiction?
An addiction is a thing that you badly want no matter what. So at the moment, many of you women badly want to have a powerful man who's a nasty man that you keep happy through sex.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
Well, you're going to have to give up that addiction. That's an addiction because...
So the addiction is the men?
No, the addiction is your desire to let yourself be raped so that you're not harmed by others.
There's very few of us that understand what it would be if it wasn't rape.
Okay, well, once you no longer feel afraid of these nasty men, you definitely would not want to have sex with them anymore, would you?
Well, I don't know that any of us ever wanted to have sex in the first place.
Exactly. So the reality is that you would no longer give yourself to these men, would you, if you weren't afraid of them?
But what happens to us then? They kill us again?
No, they can't kill you, because you've already died, you've already passed.
I'm a little bit confused.
Well, you've already passed from the world,
yes.
The spirit world, and in the spirit world, your physical body, your spirit body that you can touch, can't die.
So
the reality is that there's nothing that these men can do to actually physically kill you.
So they just scare us.
They scare you, and because they scare you, you then give them what they want. And what I'm suggesting to you is that you need to stop giving them what they want.
So won't they hurt us?
Well, this is what we need to try. What we need to do is experiment with what I'm saying to prove to you the truth of it or not. Does that make sense?
No more hurt.
Yeah, so you can just say to the men that are currently you're letting rape you, say to them, I'm not letting you rape me anymore.
And they can't hit us?
And they can try, but they can't actually put their hands on your physical body if you're not feeling like you want them to. You try it.
But why have we allowed this to go on so long?
Because you've been afraid.
Afraid of what?
You're afraid of the violent men.
From when we lived on your planet?
You lived on Earth, yeah.
So the fear of when we lived, we have that fear now.
You have that fear inside of you, and you've been living in that fear. You've been doing what that fear has told you to do.
So everything that we have now is because of the way we lived?
Yes, everything you have now is because of the way you lived. And for many of you ladies, it's because of the fear that you have and your willingness to compromise your sexuality for fear. In other words, you're compromising your sexuality for safety. And your willingness to do that has enabled you to be continually abused by these violent men.
So when you say someone will love you, then they won't rape you.
Definitely, they would never rape you.
We would want to do it as well. Is that how it works?
No, that's right. You would want to have sex with the person, and they would want to have sex with you, and then it's not a rape anymore.
That's possible?
Yes, that's certainly possible. If you ask some of those brighter women that are around you to see whether that's possible.
Yeah. Well, they are with their men, yes.
That's right.
We're very confused why you're not here.
In the spirit world?
Yeah.
Why do you think I should be there?
Well, who tells everybody this? Why has it taken so long?
Well, a lot of it has been, when I was on Earth in the first century, I wanted to tell people all of these truths, all of these different things, but the problem is most people don't want to listen. And so I went to the spirit world, and a lot of people finished up listening in the spirit world, and now there's millions and millions of people who have listened in the spirit world.
Are these bright ones?
These bright ones have all listened, yeah.
And so, does our God exist?
And as I explained to Gumba,
Kumbu,
yeah, the God that you know as a punishing and angry God doesn't exist. But there is a God that does exist, and that is a God that's loving and kind and gentle.
So our God is no such God?
Well, there's no such God that's punishing and violent, no.
So our God does not exist?
Not that kind of a God, no. But there is a God that does exist that is not punishing and violent.
And that's your God?
Well, it's your God too. She's your creator as well.
She's everybody's God.
It's everybody's God. Yeah, that's correct.
Don't like that.
Yeah. So instead of there being a God of the Christians and then a God of the Jews and a God of the Muslim.
So that's why we feel brighter and lighter already.
That's right.
Just talking about God.
That's right. And one of the things I want to show you is how you can connect to God. Would you like to know how to connect to God?
Well, the younger ones especially. Some of the older ones are watching.
Some of the older ones feel a bit more, they have more emotions about God and they have a bit more mistrust in them, right?
Well, they're saying that if their God doesn't exist, there can't be any God.
Well, the reality is that there is one God for every person, and that's the same God for every person, but he's just not the God that people on earth believed him to be. That's all.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And that's why we sort of can feel our bodies now?
That's right, yeah. And if we just allow, I can help you feel your bodies even more if you can just do something with me.
Yeah.
If you can just say to yourself, if there is a God who loves me,
if there's a God that loves me,
would you be able to give me some of your love?
Would you be able to give me some of your love? Is this possible?
And you've got to feel that. You've got to feel that feeling that you want.
So don't just look at it?
Don't just look at it, but just feel that you want that love. Does that make sense?
But I'm going to cry if I do that.
That's correct. You need to let yourself cry.
That's God?
That's God.
God likes me?
God likes you. Yeah, God loves you actually. Yeah.
And that's everybody's God.
That's everybody's God. Yeah.
So we all can have God.
You all can have God, and you can all finish up feelings of love from God.
And we can tell everybody on earth the same thing?
That's correct. Yeah, you can. Everybody on earth needs to know the same thing.
Because then there'd be no suffering.
That's correct. Because it feels lovely connecting to that God, doesn't it?
Oh. Oh. Oh.
You don't have to worry about how that God is going to treat your children.
Yeah.
That God's going to treat your children in a loving way. But they're actually God's children. Your children are God's children.
So why has it taken us so long?
Well, mostly it's because of the fear that you've been in. When a person gets very, very afraid and gets very terrified, they have a tendency then to really they do anything to look after their terror and their fear, but they don't want to hear anything else.
So what happens when we stop talking to you?
Well, you now know these other people, right, who have come to help your children.
Yeah.
There's a whole group of people too who would like to help you.
Some of them are us.
How many of you are there? How many of you like
the ladies?
Yeah.
The bright ones have said there's 12 million of us.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that many.
No, but there's probably many you haven't met, right?
There's a lot of us.
Yeah.
But there's not just all Somalians either.
No, that's right. There'd be many of you who have been raped in war and been raped by violent men and things like that. And so you would have all sort of felt similar to each other. And so what attracts you to each other.
So where do we go after here?
Well, it depends upon what emotions you deal with. So you know how some of
An emotion is crying?
An emotion is crying, but also an emotion is fear as well, and shame, and those kind of all emotions. And so, can I give you some examples?
That would be helpful.
So some of you are going to have to feel the anger that you have with men. Does that make sense?
Well, we wouldn't call it anger.
Yeah, some of you have anger.
I think it's worse than anger.
Well, most of you are terrified.
We're terrified, and we there's a bit of a rage.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I mean by anger. I was sort of...
Rage is the same thing?
Yeah, rage is anger, yeah. Just a lot of it. Yeah. So some of you are going to have to feel that. Some of you feel ashamed about what you've done. And some of you are going to have to feel that shame.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. Or some of you have even, in the spirit world, still been sexually doing things with men just because you've been afraid. Some of you will feel ashamed about that.
So, do we feel what happened in the spirit world or what happened on Earth?
Everything that's happened right up to now. That's right.
Everything.
Yeah. And these spirits are brighter ones. They'll be able to help you do that, because I've had to do that themselves.
So they show us how to feel an emotion?
They can show you how to feel an emotion. The key for you is to trust them, right? Because they know how to become more loving.
So they will stay?
They will stay as long as you don't get angry with them. They'll stay as long as you want them there.
So how do we feel angry without them being here and them going away?
Well, you can feel angry without being angry with them.
Can you explain?
Well, for example, let's say that you're angry with a man who raped you. Right?
Yes, that's easy.
Yeah. Then there's two ways to handle it. The one way is to handle it by going to the man and yelling and screaming at him and wanting to harm him.
Yes.
And that's not a loving way to deal with it. The other way is to just feel the anger inside of yourself and express it. Just yell and scream.
So the anger of our body?
Feel the anger in your body, yeah. And just yell and scream, and then you'll notice the anger will come out like a colour.
Some are confused between anger and pain.
Well, pain is the result of the anger that you're holding on to.
So it's not the pain, it's the anger that we need to feel?
That's correct. The pain will help you feel the anger if you think about it. The pain is the hurt that you feel.
The physical pain can get us to the anger.
That's correct.
But when we do that, we feel lighter. So is that good?
That's good. Every time you feel lighter, that's good.
That's good.
That means you're in the right direction. Does that make sense? If you look at your body, you notice it's a little bit brighter.
So the older ones...
If it's a little bit brighter, that means you're heading in the right direction.
Some of the older ones want to know, with the anger, how do you start with anger when you're angry with everybody?
Well, the key is to feel the rage inside of you and understand that most of the rage inside of you is because of the fear how afraid you are.
Some of them think they're going to explode if they feel that.
Yes, I know. But the reality is, your soul can't explode.
We can't?
No. And the reality is you can feel your anger and your rage.
And these bright ones will stay while we do that?
As long as you don't get angry with them, yes.
Okay. That is a big relief.
As soon as you get angry with them, then they'll have to go away from you for a while because your anger towards them is very unpleasant.
How do we call them back?
Well, if you stop being angry and you just ask them to come back to help you, they'll come back and help you.
Oh, thank you.
They don't hold on to resentment. They don't get resentful of you.
This is good.
It is good, yeah.
This is good. And we can all do this.
You can all do this, yeah. So if you do this, you can easily, follow your children into where they will go. They'll go to a place called Somalian for a while. And when you're ready to feel your anger and feel your grief and feel your shame, then you'll find yourself also going to Somalian. So the key is to also remember that connection with God that I showed you, to have a feeling towards God, that if there's a God who loves you, can you please have their love?
Can you say that again? If there's a God who loves us?
If there's a God who loves you, could you please have her love? Could you please give us your love?
We like that there's a she part.
Yeah.
So those other babies, they can go now?
All of them can go now, yes. All of them.
Oh.
Yeah. So are you all okay with them going?
Yeah, now.
Yeah? So what is our spirit friend?
They won't be hungry anymore.
They won't be hungry anymore, and they
It's so much quieter.
They'll have some sadness to feel, just like you've got some sadness to feel. But those brighter spirits will help them feel their sadness and have a good cry. They'll get over those things.
So, we're a bit confused about the men. Why do they back off now?
The men who are violent men?
Yeah.
Well, because the less fear that you have, the less that they can harm you, and so, they can't get close to you anymore.
So whenever we're talking to you or talking to the bright ones,
or talking to God,
they can't get near us.
That's correct.
Oh.
Yeah. And that way you don't have to let yourself be raped anymore.
Yeah.
And by the way, being raped isn't a sign of how pretty you are.
So.
It's a sign of how angry the men are.
Say that again?
The men who rape you because they're very angry men.
Not because they're powerful men?
That's because they think they're powerful.
But they're not?
No, they're not powerful, not in the spirit world. And even on earth they're not really powerful. They're really weak if they harm a woman, yes?
Okay. So will we like men again?
Well, it's going to mean letting go of some of the feelings you have towards men, isn't it? So some of you feel angry with men and some of you feel resentful for what men have done. And so, yeah,
So those husbands that loved us,
yes?
will you be able to see them again?
Yes, particularly if those husbands work their way through their emotions. And that's what I'd like to talk to Kumbu again about.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think that's
now,
good.
You ladies, do you feel you'd be able to trust those women spirits that are with you now?
There's one older lady who has just one more question before you call.
Yeah.
She wants to know more about the God bit.
Yes, what does she want to know?
So, how does God love us when we have behaved in such a way? And the men, our children, have done such awful things.
Yeah. Well, God is not a resentful God, and God also has compassion. And God knows that many of the things that you did while on earth, you did because you were just terrified.
So why did God allow that to happen in the first place?
Well, because God gave all mankind free will. So every person on earth has the ability to do whatever they want.
So why do we feel like we had no free will?
That's because other people chose to harm your free will. So other people using their free will chose to harm your free will.
So we did have free will.
You had free will, but unfortunately the people around you didn't want you to use it.
Because we're a woman.
Well, not only because you were a woman, but also because, you were a different race sometimes to the men who harmed you. And,
A different, yeah.
sometimes it was different reasons. It wasn't just because you were a woman.
Okay.
But the reality is that God loves you completely.
Completely.
And the key is for you to let yourself start feeling that. And that's what I mean by that prayer that you have. Like, just say to God, if you exist, could you give me some of your love, please? But it has to be a sincere feeling from your heart.
Okay. Some of us might need to talk to you again. Would that be okay?
That's okay. I'm sure Peter would be willing to do that at some point.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries.
Us men have been listening too.
Yes? What did you feel about it, Kumbu?
It's so much quieter.
Yeah?
It's been noisy here for such...
Violently harming your women, they've all sort of backed off a fair bit, haven't they now?
Yeah.
And that's because the women have less fear. It's been the fear of the women that has allowed the women...
So they're going to get pretty again.
They'll get pretty again, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We like this.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's not many children left now.
No. And the only children who are staying now are the children who feel more attached to you.
So the babies are gone too. They're not continuing to come. How does that... We're not calling them anymore?
That's right. So what we want to do is stop calling them to you. So every new baby that dies, we want to entrust them to the people in the spirit world in Somalian who can look after them.
So how were we blocking the bright ones from taking the babies?
Because you had such a heavy investment emotionally in them. So, you were wanting to look after them yourselves and you were feeling sorry for them and you also needed them to make you feel good. So that caused the babies to come to you instead of going to a different place.
Yeah. Can I talk about a personal thing for myself?
Sure you can, yeah.
How do I forgive my son?
Because of becoming a child soldier?
No. What? He raped women. Yeah.
Right.
And he killed children.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I forgive that?
Well, the first thing to do is to look at how your son might have become that person.
Is that because of my anger?
Some of it's because of your anger, and some of it was because of mum's anger, his mum's anger. And some of it was because of the different environment you lived in and things that other people did.
So, me and my son, we can talk again?
You can, but he's not where you are currently, is he?
No.
No. Have you ever seen him since you?
No, never.
No. Yeah, you'll be able to talk again. In fact, you're able to go and visit him right now if you wish, but you'll find him to be in a much worse condition than you were in.
Yeah, that's what they say, but...
Yeah.
So, do I have to forgive him before I go see him?
Well, no, you don't have to, but what say one of our spirit friends takes you there just to have a brief look at how you're saying?
Just now? You don't look like my son anymore.
No.
That is my son.
Yeah, it's your son. Sad, isn't it?
But did I do that?
No, your son is where he is, not just because of the things that you did, but also because of the things that he chose to do. Does that make sense? He's more like the men who raped your woman, isn't he?
He became just like them.
Yeah. Because he identified with them because he felt that was the powerful position. But the reality is you can help him too, just the same way as I've been helping you.
With these bright spirits.
Yeah, that's right. If we can help him, when we can, then we try.
So what do I do now? What do we all do now?
Well, the first thing to do is again, remember what I said to the women about longing for God, like to actually feel God's love.
And this is the everyone's God.
This is everyone's God, yeah. So it's one God for everyone. And, I call her my mother or my father. So for me, I'm just a child of God.
A child of God.
Yeah. And if you just allow yourself to feel that you're a child of God, and that God wants to give you some of her love. See? And if you don't believe it, then you can just say, if there is a God, could you give me some of your love?
So you talk to the women about the shame.
Yeah.
Is it the same? Have we got shame or we got something else?
Well, the reality is that you've got similar emotions. You've got some shame-based emotions and you've got some anger.
That's for all the things we did.
Yeah, shame about the things you've done, but also shame about yourselves because you couldn't protect your women.
So that's all the things that happened to us. That's our real shame?
Yeah, that's right. And you can feel that.
Yeah.
You're allowed to feel that. You don't have to fight the feelings anymore. Many of you have been trying hard to fight the feelings, haven't you? You don't have to fight the feelings anymore.
It's very tiring.
Yeah, it is very tiring to fight feelings.
And this is what the bright ones help us with.
Yeah, that's right. And if you can trust them, they'll be able to help you do the same thing as what the bright women spirits are helping the women do.
So do we stop going to our country anymore?
Well, a lot of times when you go back to your country and you get really, really concerned about what's happening there, you then start influencing the people that are currently there, don't you?
Yes.
And my suggestion is to stop influencing them in an unloving way. So what you want to do is, if you go back to your country and visit your country anymore, which you can still do, my suggestion is to start influencing them in a loving way.
So how do we feed them?
Well, there's things you can do to help them, in terms of helping them to have a longing for God and things like that as well. But there's also things that people on the earth need to do to help them. And what you can do is go to countries, you can influence the people in other countries to be more loving towards them. So
does a Christian and our own religion and everyone's religion, we're still very confused about the God bit.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about religion, because remember I said that there's only one God.
So this is all man-made stuff.
That's right. The religions are all man-made stuff. So what you want to do is find good people in any religion and help them to become more loving.
Mm-hmm.
And help them to have a strong longing for God. And as they do that, they will be able to progress. Does that make sense? And then they'll be able to make decisions and choices on earth that will help your people to be fed. See, at the moment they're making a lot of choices and decisions that are not helping your people to be fed.
So I will continue to see out of my eye in the future?
Certainly.
So that happens just from talking to you?
Well, it happens by starting to see some different things rather than thinking that you're the same person than when you passed. So at the moment, up until now, you've been thinking that you can't change anything.
Yes.
And with the discussion with me, you're becoming more and more aware that you'll be able to change things. And one of the things that will change is that all of the physical infirmities that you have in your bodies from your passing, they'll all just disappear.
So we get our legs and our arms back too?
That's right. You get your legs and your arms back, and you get your sight back, and your body will ache less and hurt less. Does that make sense?
Yes, so excited about that.
Yeah. It's good to have your body back.
Oh. It's a different feeling, but we want to say thank you, but it feels different. It doesn't feel like a thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you guys are there.
Oh, the bright ones say there's nearly 12 million of us now.
Yeah.
There's a lot more of us than the women.
Yeah. Although there were 12 million women, weren't there?
Oh, I think there were about 5 or 6 or something, but
okay.
But we're not just from.
You're from all places too.
Yes. We come from mostly Africa.
Yeah, a lot of African nations.
Yes.
A lot of African nations have had a lot of turmoil for many years because a lot of other nations in the Western world have come and hurt the African nations.
Oh. The British and the Italians, especially in where I am.
Yeah.
Yes. And the French also elsewhere.
Well, it's almost every. It's almost.
Yes.
Pretty much almost every European nation, hasn't it been?
Well, yes. The South Africans said the Dutch too, so.
That's correct.
Yes.
So the reality is, for a lot of people in Africa, they've been completely oppressed for many, many centuries.
So, tribal leaders will no longer control us then?
That's correct.
Is that why we don't hear about God?
When you say you don't hear about God, you mean...
We haven't heard what you've taught us to know.
Yeah. Because, see, again, you've been quite afraid. You've been thinking that God doesn't exist because of the different things that have happened to you. And then you start believing men who, have all this anger and rage in them. And before you know it, you finish up following them,
It's so much lighter.
So you know how I described just that feeling of a longing for God's love. If there is a God, can you please give me some love? And that needs to come from your heart. And if that comes from your heart, you'll find that some light will enter your body. You'll need to let yourself have a cry, because it'll trigger many emotions of shame and other emotions inside of you.
So it's not weak to cry?
No, not at all. If you look at my body, you can see that I've cried many times.
Yes. The younger ones want to know about their mothers.
Yep. What would they like to know?
The mothers won't even look at them.
Right? Because the mothers are ashamed of them.
Yes.
Well, because they're ashamed of what they've done.
Yes.
And
what happened to them as their mothers too.
Yeah. So the reality is, though, that when their mothers work through their different emotions, they'll forgive what the sons have done, and then the mothers will want to look at the sons. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So we just feel our emotions with the bright ones, and then we will be able to connect with our families again.
That's correct. So, and you'll only connect if you want to, So if some of you don't want to, then that won't happen. But you'll find that many of you will want to reconnect again.
And we don't go back to Earth anymore?
No, you don't need to go back to Earth anymore. And in fact, if you go back to Earth, my suggestion is to make sure that it's a message of love that you're giving to the Earth, not one of pain and suffering and anger. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because at the moment, while you're giving a message of pain and suffering and anger to people on the Earth, then it makes their lot even worse.
So
giving them a different message of love, then it makes their lot better.
So do we feel better because God forgives us?
You feel better because you've received some of God's love, and therefore you know that God's forgiving you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You have the ability to become one of those bright ones.
We can all do that.
You can all do that. But it's going to mean dealing with some of the feelings that you have that are unloving inside of you.
Yeah. So no more killing.
No more killing, and no more raping, and no more attempting to rape or attempting to kill or trying to influence other people to rape or kill.
Does that mean, though, when we become bright like that there would be no need to do that because we don't attract that?
That's correct. So when you say there's no need to do it, there's never any need to do those things.
Okay.
Only ever fear that would drive, or anger that would drive those things.
Because we feel safe with God?
Yeah, when you feel safe with God, you don't have any fear, and so therefore you don't have any anger.
Oh.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've felt pretty unsafe all your life, so...
Oh, I was unsafe before I was born.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
There's just a couple of questions.
Sure.
What will happen to Africa?
Well, you mean in the future?
Yes.
What do you foresee happening to Africa?
Well, it can't keep going the way it is.
No.
Is everyone going to die?
Everyone's been harmed quite a lot, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel there's a good hope for Africa to become a loving place.
That's possible?
Yeah.
Because of God?
Because of God, but also, it'll help when there's no longer spirits in the spirit world making life on Earth harder.
Yeah.
So if all the African spirits who have passed over can stop harming the next generation of people on Earth, that will make it a lot better on Earth for all of the Africans that are on Earth.
My father wants to know what causes drought.
Well, there's a lot of different factors that cause drought. One factor is the way that mankind treats the Earth. So a lot of mankind at the moment is just having an attitude of raping the Earth, taking from the Earth what they want and then devastating the rest of it.
So that's why there's so much drought in Africa.
That's one reason. Another reason why there's so much drought is because of the different condition of people on the Earth. And the condition of people means that they don't know how to control the weather systems and everything like that. And eventually when the condition of people changes, we will be able to control the weather systems, and so therefore we can bring rain to places that have had no rain.
That'll be the witch doctor?
Well, it won't be like a witch doctor anymore, because a witch doctor is really a person who's connecting to a lot of quite dark spirits generally. Spirits that are even darker than yourselves, right? And I don't mean dark in terms of skin colour, I mean dark in terms of their emotions, evil emotions.
Yes, we understand that bit.
And so, the reality is a lot of the witch doctors have been connecting to really dark spirits, and sometimes, connecting to them works, but other times it doesn't work.
Because that's the fear bit.
That's right. See, when we bring ourselves in the condition of love, then things on earth all start working better as well. So that's one of the reasons why I've come to earth again, because I want to try to help earth make those changes.
And that's why we can talk to you, but we weren't talking to people in the spirit world?
That's right, because sometimes it's easier to talk to somebody on earth who can explain things to you first, so that you can trust the people in the spirit world,
Okay.
Yeah. So now that we've had that conversation, what I'm hoping is that you trust those men that have been around you who can help you become...
There's more of them now.
Yeah,
and there's more of us now too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
You imagine if large groups of people like yourselves all changed in the spirit world, then there would be no more influence on the earth to do bad things.
So there'd be no more rape?
Well, there would still possibly be rape, because the people on earth still might occasionally decide to do bad things by themselves.
But it wouldn't be us doing it.
It wouldn't be you trying to do it through them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so it'd make it easier for them to make the right decision. And not only that, if you came with a message of love to them, then they'll all start trusting that there is love in the world rather than hatred all the time. And that helps people to change.
Okay, I think I need to go.
There's a lot of very positive things that can happen by your changing.
So now we cry?
You're allowed to cry. It's very good for you to cry. It's very healing for your soul.
One question on crying.
Yep.
What's the difference between crying for yourself and crying for others?
Sometimes it's crying for others that helps you finish up connecting to feelings that you have that you wouldn't have normally felt if you were just crying for yourself.
So that's what happened to me 26 days ago?
Because what happened to you was that you started having feelings of love for these children.
Okay.
And when you start having feelings of love, that's when your soul changes.
And that's when the bright one came.
And that's when the bright one can come. Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
The bright one's always been around you. If you talk to him about that, you'll find he's been around you many times. But he's never been able to actually talk with you until then.
That's a pity.
It is a pity, isn't it? Yeah. My suggestion is to trust them now, and also trust this God that I've introduced you to.
Your God feels safe.
Yeah, well, it's not my God, it's your God too. Yeah.
Our God.
It's God. Our God. Yeah.
That's going to take a while.
Yeah. He's the God of every person that's ever lived.
I like that.
Yeah. Because there's only one God, then we're all brothers. So you're my brother.
I feel that, but I don't feel that from many.
No.
I do feel it from you.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Nice to meet you, brother. So you'll be able to go with those spirits?
He's gone, AJ.